have you seen this? A tree with glowing yellow eyes? Then you're probably dead already. Right, yeah, no, go on.
But where were we, Tim? I don't know.
I believe we were about to let Mike contribute something.
Well, just a minute. No.
Well, I really enjoy this movie. This is probably one of my favorite horror movies, because it is so weird, and like Jen implied, it's a very indie film. The way I think I described it, Jen, is it feels like a folklore mythology grad student just made this as their graduate thesis, because it also has that also says not only about the content of the film, but also the quality of the filmmaking, because it is very very low budget.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It is, when I first saw this, we got it as a VHS rental from, of all places, a Blockbuster, which still existed at the time, and also for some reason had this movie of all things. You know, it had like three entire walls filled with nothing but like Rush Hour, and then it had this.
And now you have to go into like the deep, foreboding, backwoods forest of Bend, Oregon to find a Blockbuster.
Yeah, so times have changed. But we got this not knowing what it was and watched it, and of course it's extreme. The version that we saw was very grainy and washed out, and it looked like, the tape that Samara appears on, which added a lot to the experience of like watching this film, because you really felt like you were watching like some found footage, and it hit a lot of buttons for me, because it's folk horror, but it feels like that they did a lot of research. They really went out of their way to capture the feel. This movie takes place in 1750, and they really went out of their way to capture the feel of 1750. And what America was like at that point.
Yeah, a lot of people get 1750 wrong. I mean, you're watching it and you're like, this is 1776, this is 1640. People don't know.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, here, if your average person, you're like, let's make a movie and set it in like 1750, like, okay, everyone, I don't know, we'll have a whole bunch of pilgrims with like buckle hats and or something. This movie really. One of the things that's interesting, I thought, is the fact that early on it establishes, this is pre-colonial America, or at least this is colonial America, and because we see some of our protagonists, they tell the whole story in flashback after they have escaped it all and been picked up by, of all people, the French military, which is still operating in what is not yet the United States.
Or I mean, I would have assumed it to be Canada, or at least like the U.S.-Canadian border.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever established exactly where this takes place. It's just somewhere in North America.
Back east, doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it has a very, like, we've already mentioned the witch, and it does have I'd say, striking parallels to that film. It is, the basic plot is almost identical, I think. And
because it is them like going out sort of into the woods to struggle on their own, and then encountering this like paranormal supernatural strife that they are just ill-equipped to handle.
Yeah, and even the reason.
You wonder if the filmmaker responsible for The Witch had actually seen this movie and maybe drawn something from it.
I honestly think there's something to that, because not only is the plot very similar, but even the reasons for them going out into the wilderness are very similar. Because in Eyes of Fire, basically you've got kind of a heretical preacher man who, leads his little cult out. Yeah, he leads his cult out into the wilderness. And in the Vavitch, they don't make a lot of hay out of it, but it is established early on that the dad in the family that leaves has some sort of conflict with the church about his beliefs as well. So
yeah, and
was
there
he
is
a getting maniac like the guy in Eyes of Fire.
Right, yeah, and there is some legitimacy to like the overall like the undercurrent theme of both the Vitch and Eyes of Fire, which is your Christian values of like notions of like a higher being when put up against like the sort of cold indifference of nature, like the pagan beliefs, like they don't count for jack squat.
Yeah.
That's kind of my takeaway from it.
Yeah,
And again, a very folk
sure.
horror motif, just the brutality of the land and nature and red and claw and tooth,
Right.
which does come up in this as well, though. Should we say actually what the very capsule? Should we say capsule summary of the film? I don't think we actually said what this movie is actually about.
Yeah, get to it.
All right, so basically, as we said, heretical preacher man, he gets run out of town on a rail, so he and his cult decide we're going to strike out on our own into the North American wilderness.
Yeah, because they try to hang him and his woman, who is she
has powers. She has lady powers.
Yeah, he's got a couple of women. He's got the one woman who she's got her husband who's a manly man out hunting. But so she's basically, her problem is that she's hungry for the D, but Bay is out of town. So she shacks up with this preacher man instead. And the preacher man's other hookup is basically this manic pixie dream girl from, I guess, Ireland, I think they say.
Yeah.
And, yeah. She's got she's in touch with the leprechauns, so she's got magical powers. It's not very clear exactly. She just seems to have kind of psychic powers that she draws on throughout the film.
Is she like the mute monkey faced one or the other one that he's always making time with?
That's the mute one. Yeah.
The mute
okay.
The mute one is the mute one, Leah. She's the kind of like the Irish fairy witch.
Tim,
yeah, she's some like Nell-like autist.
Yeah, like she doesn't really speak except in I think she can speak like telepathically, like intelligibly in English to people. But for the most part,
so she's like a regular Irish person.
She's a disgusting bog troll with powers.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
The other woman is Eloise, who she was married to this hardy woodsman, Marion Dalton, who I think is out.
Yeah, she's the wayward wife.
Yeah, he's out in the forest being manly. They have a daughter, Fanny. How many kids do they have? Like two? One? Two?
No, I think they just have Fanny. There's another couple who has Meg, and then the old people, the one who has the wife who's just named Sister. I think they have a grandkid. That's Kathleen.
A granddaughter.
Yeah,
Kathleen, I think.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So Fanny is the daughter of Eloise and Marion Dalton, the woodsman. But as Mike said, Eloise is getting dicked down by Will Smythe, the smooth-tongued preacher.
Mm.
But
so this is a story about how his life got turned upside down.
Right, and the town doesn't like that they're hooking up, so they cry witches, and they try to hang Will, and I think they also want to hang Leah. But Leah, having powers, when they're about to hang Will, she actually breaks the rope. Like, she does some kind of magic spell and frees him. And as Fanny puts it, she says, like, the townsfolk didn't even seem that surprised when the rope broke.
Right. But instead they're just like, all right, on with you.
Right.
And
what else are you gonna
do? They just stole a raft and headed down the river, and they're like, okay, we're gonna make our own colony with blackjack and hookers.
Right, but unfortunately they forgot that manifest destiny and all that aside, this continent was actually populated before all these
I did not know that.
Yeah, all those before all these unwashed Europeans started coming over, there were indigenous people there.
Yeah, weird.
And in this case, it's the Shawnee tribe, I think, and so they get their numbers thinned pretty quickly as they're traveling down the river.
Right, which is great because the story seems to revolve around about 8 characters, and I think 4 of them don't speak.
Well, yeah, they're
So yeah, it's just as well they get thinned out.
Right. So, Mike, do you want to take it from here?
Sure. Actually, I just realized I said earlier that we don't really know where this takes place. However, I just realized since the Shawnee are a real tribe, that indicates that this probably takes place in what is now modern Pennsylvania, Ohio, or Indiana. Most likely.
Damn. Look at you bringing the knowledge.
Yeah.
So I was close when I said near Canada.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I believe I said who cares, but
well, the important thing.
Tim says that no matter what the topic. So.
For real, yeah.
Well, the important thing is they go out into the woods. They're on their own. Their numbers get thinned, but then luckily, because Will Smythe is, because he's a fuck up.
I love how big a shithead this character is.
Yeah, he is. He is just like, he fucks everything up. But luckily, Marion Dalton comes back and is like, "What the fuck? My wife went off this preacher man. Well, I guess I'll go follow him." So he follows them, and basically, he kind of takes over when he arrives because he's like, "Look, this guy's a fuck up. You guys should follow me."
He's kind of the Fred of the Scooby-Doo gang at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say that, like, I think it's interesting because if I was there and I was like, and I showed up and was like, "Oh yeah, this is the guy who's been taking my wife," it's like, fuck off. I'm taking my wife back and leaving. But instead, he's just like, "I'm joining you guys." Yeah, it's like, okay.
Well, I think he's also concerned.
They found a commune.
I think he's concerned that they have like children with them, like not just his own daughter Fanny, but also like very young
like
children.
You idiots are gonna die out here without me.
He's concerned about other people's children. I mean, this is non-toxic masculinity with this Marion Dalton. He just cares about. But basically, what happens is they discover this particular valley that the Shawnee will not go into because they believe it is cursed.
Right.
So
they found a cabin that they're like, "Oh, great, a cabin." They get closer and it's all burnt out. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
But the preacher man's real excited because he's like, "Hey, I don't have to build shit."
Yeah.
Right. Nor would he be able to. I get the feeling.
Yeah.
Right.
So they hang out in this valley. Weird shit starts happening. Like you see trees with glowing eyes and other
faces in the trees. Well, the thesis that the movie posits is it says when blood is spilled, it gathers in the earth into basically like devils or spirits. Oh, I'm so sorry we had to cut you off there because the episode gets really good right after that. Why don't you hop on over to patreon.com/haveyouseen this, and for just a couple of bucks every month you get the rest of this episode plus another bonus episode that all the plebes don't even have access to.
It gets really dirty.
We take it to a whole level, but oh man, I wish I could play the rest of that episode for you.
Ooh, sorry.